Previously on Storytime. The agent then pulls out a tape recorder from his jacket, slams it on the table, and to me, everything just went black. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, it's your boy anfernee, and in this video, as you can probably tell by the intro, I am going to be doing part 2 of me almost getting arrested by the FBI. Man, last Thursday's video was extremely fun for me to make. For one, we did an FBI story, and for two, we finally reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and it obviously is an amazing feeling. If you haven't watched that video yet, I'm going to put a card up in the top of this video so you can go watch that video before you watch the video, just so you can get up to date and you will better understand this video. But with that being said, let's finish this story of me almost getting arrested by the FBI. Alright, to do a little bit of recap of part 1 for those who don't remember, our program, the Auburn University men's basketball team, was being investigated by the FBI over a whole bunch of charges that our assistant coach had incurred, dealing with players getting money, some conspiracy theories, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm not quite sure I can get into, but this led to a chain of events that had each player get investigated by the FBI personally. Now, I talked about in my last video how I had to go get a personal lawyer to help represent me, and to my mistake or to my misfortune, I did not have my lawyer in the room with me when I actually went into this interview with the FBI. And with that being said, let's get right into how the interview played out and what exactly resulted from the investigation. So here we are, as I said before, the FBI is staring into my soul until I have beads of sweat running down my forehead. One of them pulls out a tape recorder and slams it down on the table. This is when the questioning starts. For each one of the questions that I remember they asked me, I'm going to give you a little bit of background of what exactly happened for them to ask me that particular question, because apparently I was a little bit more involved in the situation than I thought I was. The first question that they asked me was, where was I on the evening of our trip to New York City? Now, for those who have been watching my content for a few weeks, you may know that I did a video a few weeks back of my first time playing in Madison Square Garden, and this trip was actually one of the more important parts of the investigation, because that is where a lot of the shady stuff happened. Now, if you remember from that video, all I was excited about was playing in Madison Square Garden, and I didn't have my eyes out for much shadiness going on around me, but apparently there was a lot of shady things going on. So when they asked me where was I on the evening of our trip to New York City, my mind immediately went to I was back in my room, probably playing some video games or just watching some TV, trying to relax my nerves before our game the next day. But little did I know there was a secret meeting going on in one of the hotel rooms at the hotel involving the coach, a shady financial advisor, and a couple of our players. Now, you may ask, how was I involved in that? Well, that was because one of the players that was in this secret meeting was actually my roommate, and I had no idea this was even going on. Now, obviously they kept it a big secret, but it's kind of amazing that something like that was happening right under my nose, and I had absolutely no idea. So they asked me where I was that night, and I give them my answer. Now, I'm going to backtrack a little bit to before the interview, and I had already found out they had been bugging the coach's phones in order to listen in on his conversations before they even decided to make an arrest and press charges. So I do honestly believe that they knew that I wasn't a part of that secret meeting that happened in that New York City hotel room, but that still doesn't mean that I didn't know anything about it, because it was my roommate who was one of the players participating in that meeting. Now, I don't know how the law works in this type of situation. I don't know if you're guilty by association or what the case may be, but this is one of the times where I am extremely thankful that my roommate didn't feel open enough to discuss his secret plans going on outside of basketball with me, because that would have got me in some big trouble that I had no need of being a part of. The next question that they're going to ask is, did I take any money from a coach? Now, you probably haven't been reading any NCAA basketball headlines lately, but one of the biggest conspiracy theories is that players get paid by colleges in order to attend certain schools. Zion Williamson is going through the same thing. In fact, with one of his agents accusing him of taking money, and now they have Coach K and a whole bunch of other Duke representatives having to take this stand to attest whether they gave Zion money or not. And if they are under oath, they're going to have to tell the truth. And if Zion did receive money, or if any other high-level recruit at Duke did receive money, this may open the floodgates to the industry of paying athletes to attend schools that nobody has ever even heard of. So me, in my personal situation, being a 3 to 4 star recruit coming out of a small football town in Auburn, I was lucky enough to receive a scholarship offer in the first place, and they didn't have to do much more than send me the national letter of intent to sign in order to get me to come to Auburn. Now, I'm going to be honest, I have had my doubts about some recruits attending certain schools, and there had to be some kind of extra incentive for these high-level recruits to attend those schools, but I have never experienced firsthand somebody getting paid to go to a particular school. So while it may seem obvious that athletes are getting paid to go to certain schools, I would seriously doubt that, because in many cases, it's simply the coaching staff that has built a great relationship with the athlete, or the current teammates that have had a great impression on the athlete in order for them to want to be a part of that family. So when I told them that I didn't take any money, they pretty much said okay, and then moved on to the next question from there. And the next question was discussing my relationship that I had with the coach that was in trouble. Now this was a slightly tougher question for me to answer because I had to be honest, but I also didn't want to put myself in any incriminating stature in order to seem suspicious that I was actually receiving money undercover by any of the coaches. So here's how my relationship happened with this particular coach that got in trouble. Before I gained a good relationship to this coach, there was another assistant coach on the coaching staff that actually recruited me to go to Auburn. Now if you know anything about basketball recruiting, the recruiting coach is typically the one that has the best relationship with the potential student athlete. They're the ones that call the student athletes on a regular basis, checks in on them, comes to visit their family, and even comes to watch their games live at times. So in my particular situation, the coach that recruited me to come to Auburn actually got offered a head coaching job at another school way across the country, and now I had to build another relationship with a coach on the coaching staff in order to have that same relationship. And lo and behold, the coach that I decided to build a relationship with was the one that was doing all of this shady stuff. So when they asked me about the relationship, I had to be honest and tell them that we had a very good relationship, and I felt like we were very close, being that I would go to him if I had any problems adjusting to the college environment, coming in from a high school senior to a college basketball freshman. Now I want to say that this raised some red flags because when I said that I would go to him for any help, I'm sure that their mind went straight to monetarily, which that is not necessarily the case. I want to do an entire video about this, but as a college freshman, it is very easy to go into short-term or long-term depression. Now I don't want to go on my soapbox, but basically as a high school basketball playing senior, a lot of the players revolve their identity around being a great basketball player. That's all that they have known growing up, and that's all that they feel like they ever will be, is a basketball player. So when you come in as a college freshman on a college basketball team, you are quickly met with the fact that you are not the best player on the team. You are not even the second best, third best, fourth best, or even fifth best player on the team, and the whole identity of yourself being a great basketball player is crushed within hours or within seconds of being on the basketball court with these more experienced players. And for me, that was really tough because it led me to believe that at first I was not following the right path and that I should just give up and do something else because it was just so hard. But obviously I didn't. I began to gain my confidence back in due time. But I just know that it is very common for freshmen to experience that, and that's why you have so many transfers in college right away. But going back to the FBI story, I told them that relationship, and surprisingly they didn't want to press on it too long. They just nodded their heads and wrote down a few notes and said okay. And they went on to ask a few more questions that I don't exactly remember, but after that the interview was over, and luckily that was the last time I saw any of those FBI agents again. Now, I'm sure you're wondering what exactly resulted from all of this happening. So here's the aftermath. Unfortunately, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So as far as the coaches being investigated, only one of the coaches actually got fired from their position, and that was the one actually doing all of the shady business in New York City and on the team in general. But all of the other great coaches got to keep their jobs, even our head coach, Coach Bruce Pearl. And I was extremely happy once he got to keep his job because he is such an amazing individual and amazing coach, and he was a great father figure for my time playing basketball at Auburn. As far as the players and any of the other players that got interviewed, the only two players that got suspended were the one actually involved in the secret meeting, and everybody else got to keep the eligibility for that year, and those two players actually got to get the eligibility back after a following year and paying back any money that they received from the coach. So as far as I know now, there has been no jail time been issued to any of the people that's been involved from the Auburn side. I'm not sure about any of the other schools, but that is still great to hear because even though he did do some shady business, I am glad that he didn't have to do any hard time in a prison cell. But with those two players being suspended, they were probably two of our best players on the team at that time. That left our team extremely short-handed, so we were a big underdog going into our next season. We were so big of an underdog, in fact, that CBS predicted us to go 4-14 in our conference that year, finishing 12th or 13th in the conference. But we were able to overcome all kinds of adversity that season, which I will do another story time on, and we won our first SEC regular season championship for the first time since 1999. That is also the same season that I broke my leg. If you haven't watched that video already, that is one of my best videos that I've ever made, and I seriously encourage you to watch that video after finishing this video. And with all that being said, that's the end of my story, almost getting arrested by the FBI. I just want to ask you guys a quick question at the end of this video. If you have any other things you think I should do a video on other than my storytime videos, I am open to all suggestions. I know that I love doing storytime videos, but I'm also open to doing videos about how to overcome obstacles to be successful. You guys know I love doing YouTube analytics videos, so if you want to see more of those, then let me know. And I also want to do some videos where I venture on Fiverr to see if I can get a logo created or an outro song created for my channel in order to make the branding a little bit more unique compared to some of the other channels out there. I know there are loads of ways to get new content. I'm trying to get as many ways as possible, but I'm really happy with the way this channel is progressing. It is going extremely fast, probably because of all the promoting I've done on Instagram. If you haven't followed me on Instagram yet, I am almost at 20,000 subscribers, and I do post some pretty motivating and fun stuff over there as well. But that's pretty much all I have for you in today's video, and until next time, guys, peace.